fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the fish report. Don't need no bed, don't need no pull. When you tune in to the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. Hanging at the fish report. You got Craig and TK and Head D tuned in at the fish report.
Coming to you live from Studio F in Russia, Ohio. It's the Fish Report Live Show with your hosts, Craig Fissinger and Ken Francis.
Tune in to the fish report.
Welcome, folks, to another Fish Report Live. Thanks for joining us. I'm Craig Fissinger. That is Ken Francis. We're your co-host. Back in our sound room, it's TK and Heavy D. We'll be talking to those guys here a little bit later tonight. And Ken, on Tuesday night, you and I and some of the crew got to watch a couple former SCAL coaches go at it again for the first time in a couple years. Only this time they're not in the SCAL.
That's right, Craig. It was really neat to see head coach of the Sidney Yellow Jackets, John Willoughby, going against the head coach of the Troy Trojans and longtime Russia coach, Paul Bremagen. Two great coaches, Craig, in the Shelby County League, and they've both stepped up to Division I level now. Both doing, got their teams off to solid starts, Craig, and it's Coach Bremagen's second year over there at Troy. Had a great year last year trying to rebuild that Troy program. And kind of in different shoes there, and Coach Willoughby, he's taken over a program that is just loaded with a whole bunch of talent, Craig, and we got a chance to see a lot of that last night.
Yeah, of course, Sidney ended up winning that game, and one big reason was our interview tonight.
Yes, really looking forward to talking to super sophomore over there in Sidney, Craig, and that's Andre Gordon, the Sidney standout point guard, multi-sport athlete over there. This year, Craig, he's averaging almost 23 points a game. Last year as a freshman, averaged over 13 a game. He's being highly recruited on the gridiron as well as the basketball court, and he did not disappoint last night at all, and really looking forward to talking to him tonight later on the show.
Yeah, we'll cover all those subjects and more in our interview with him coming up in the second half of the show. But before we get to that, Ken, just like we do here every week on Fish Report Live, we have our weekly poll question. And tonight's poll question has to do with those Sidney Yellow Jackets.
It's about the Sidney Yellow Jackets, Craig. And the question is, will the Sidney boys team win the GWAC North Division? Yes or no? Very simple answer, Craig. After watching them play last night, I'd have to give it a resounding yes. They looked pretty good.
Well, we'll see what our viewers think. And if you're watching us on the Fish Report Live page, you can scroll down, help us answer tonight's poll question. If you're watching us on NK Telco, TK will have those results for you at the end of the show. All right, Cam, well, let's get things started. And we've been covering SCAL boys and girls these last couple weeks. We're going to cover both of them tonight in the first half. And let's get things started looking at the boys standings, see where we're at right now.
Well, Fort Loramie had a big win last night, Craig. Home win against the Fair Lawn Jets. Both teams came into that game undefeated. So Fort Loramie, again, walking away with a nice win last night. They're sitting atop the Shelby County League standings at 3-0. Russia, even with them in the loss column, they're at 2-0. So those are the only two undefeated teams left in the league already, and as far as league play goes. Fair Lawn Jackson Center, two very good teams there, sitting at 1-1. Anna, Houston, both at 1-2, and Bockens at 0-3. So the league's starting to take a little bit of shape already, Craig. I know it's early. Some big games left to be played, but we'll see what happens. More big games this weekend, and, it'll start to continue to take shape over the next few weeks.
All right, well, let's bring the sound room guys in and talk a little boys basketball, and it's still that fun time of year, guys, where, it's early yet, so everyone still has got hopes of maybe working their way to the top of those standings. But let's talk about our first game coming up this Friday, and that's Houston at Fair Lawn. A little later tonight, Ken, we said we're going to talk to Andre Gordon, who's averaging a bunch of points, had a couple 30-point games. Fair Lawn's got a pretty high score themselves, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and that's Nathan Lessing, of course, the 4-year starter over there for the Fair Lawn Jets. He's averaging 28 points a game this year. He only needs, he's around 200 points shy, Craig, of becoming the Shelby County League's all-time leading scorer, passing Fort Loramie great Tom Brandewy. So, he's been at it for a long time. It's hard to believe he's still around wearing that Fair Lawn uniform, but when you're as good as Nathan is and you've been around for so long, he's really earned it, and just a great player.
Yeah, they're playing a Houston team that just picked up their first win of the season the other night.
It'll be an interesting contest, and I look for Houston to go into Fairlawn Friday night. They'll be ready to play. They're coming in with a little bit of momentum. They're getting great play from Dylan Hensley, the Houston player. They're averaging a little over 11 points the first 4 games of the year. So Coach Francis, congratulations to him on that first win, and he'll have his Cats ready to play. And if you're Fairlawn, you got to rebound. You can't afford another league loss. So. We'll see what happens over there in the hangar Friday night.
Yeah, guys, I expect this one to be a competitive game. Houston, kind of riding high from that first win yet. And Fairlawn, a team very good with Nathan Lessing, but I think they have to have a couple other guys step up and score, getting a little bit of help from Nick Brodigan over there, as well as Luke Hickman. But I think those guys are really going to have to step it up a little bit more once teams start focusing all their attention on Nathan Lessing. Let's go to TK, and let's talk about the Jackson Center at Botkin's game, TK. Got our first opportunity to see the Jackson Center Tigers last Friday night, and what are your thoughts on this game?
A big game for both teams in a way. Botkins, as we know, they've been struggling here a little bit. Admittedly, they're in a rebuilding year. The coach said that early on. Not a lot of experience. They've got Luke Bergman playing well, but still got to build that supporting cast a little bit. They're at 2-3, struggling a little bit here. So probably not quite enough experience. Jackson coming off a nice victory at home. Got to go on the road. I look for them to be hitting on all cylinders right now. We saw them, as you said, last weekend against the Raiders. A good team, maybe not quite what they were last year. Still looking for that chemistry across the board, how to work with Brady Wildermuth and the rest of the team and get everybody in on the offense. So I think Botkins will be like anybody else. They'll try and shut down Brady, but there's just too much on Jackson for them to overcome. And I think Jackson has to be feeling good going into this game, and they'll probably come away with a victory.
Yeah, they got guys that are capable. Bryce Osby and Plattfoot are guys that are capable of scoring, and I think that was one big reason for Rushie's success against them last Friday is they shut down Sosby completely.
Yeah, Sosby came out of that game 0 for 6 from the field, and Plattfoot was 1 for 6. So, those two guys that you expect to get a lot of scoring from if you're Coach Elkert over there in Jackson Center were a combined 1 for 12. And, like we said, Brady Wildermuth, he's going to need a lot of help on that offensive end. And, Rushie had him bogged down for most of the game. And, Jackson Center only put 31 points on the board the whole night. So they're going to have to work on that. And I know Coach Elkert will have his team prepared and move forward from that loss.
All right, Heavy D, and we have our hometown Raiders over at Anna this Friday night, and the Raiders played well last weekend with a couple hard-fought wins, as we mentioned, over Jackson Center and then over Arcanum on Saturday. Who is impressing you right now for the Raiders?
Yeah, the Raiders coming in at 4-1 against Anna. A little banged up. I know Drew Poling is still out with the rib injury, yeah. So he'll be out a week or so yet. But, I like the seniors right now. Dylan Cadonier, I know Coach Cadonier Spence said in the early season that he wants Dylan to shoot more. I tell you what, when Dylan puts it up or drives to the bucket, he's pretty golden. I'd like to see him put it up a little bit more. Drew Sherman's playing nice defense. He had 11 points against Arcanum the other night. Played 31 minutes for the Raiders, getting a lot of time out of him. And I'll tell you what, I said it after the game against Jackson, there's nobody tougher in Shelby County than Cole Tebby. The guy takes the charge. He's been on the floor. He's hustling. He's scrapping. He's motivating the team to keep him rolling. I really like Cole Tebby and his level of play that he brings to the Raiders. So should be a good game against Wyatt Bensman and the Anna Rockets this weekend. Raiders are playing good, though.
Yeah, you mentioned all those players for the Raiders that are playing well, and one of those guys that I guess has been my surprise so far this season is Drew Sherman. I expected him to come in as more of a defensive specialist, and he's been able to score.
He's probably getting 8 or 9 points a game on average, and he's had a couple double-digit games already this year. And like Heavy D said back here, you're not going to find anybody in the Shelby County League that plays as tough as Cole Tebby. I've seen this kid, and he's just tough as nails. And he brings it every night, which energizes the whole team. He gets the whole group going out there, and just a lot of fun to watch. But Raiders are going to have their hands full Friday night at Anna. Anytime you go over to Anna play, they got some young kids over there, but they always got that loud student section right in that corner, and you got Ronnie Rocket right there in the corner. Sometimes I've seen Ronnie Rocket guard the three-point shot already from the corner, I believe. So I know they but no, in all seriousness, tough place to play over there on Anna, and Rushie's going to have to bring their A game.
We better tell Coach Cadonier to look out for Ronnie Rocket then. All right, well, let's jump ahead to girls, guys, and Ken, let's check out the girls' standings, see where they're at right now.
Well, Botkins, Craig, continues to roll along. Each week we talk about Botkins. They're undefeated. 1 week we said, well, they haven't played anybody yet. We'll see what happens this week. We see what happens that week, and they continue to roll. They're 8-0, 3-0 in the Shelby County League. Just a very good surprise there for to start the season off. Jackson Center, of course, they got off to a little bit late start. They're still undefeated as well. Fort Loramie and Russia both sitting there with 1 league loss, and then the rest of the county. So, Craig, I don't know. The more I look at these standings, the more I'm starting to become a Trojan believer out there. So we'll see what happens this week, though, because I know they got a really big game coming up that TK is going to talk about here in just a minute.
Yeah, TK, let's talk about that. Jackson Center at Botkins. What will this game tell us by the time it's finished?
Well, it's early in the season, but I think it's going to tell us a heck of a lot, and it might just tell us everything. Like you said, Ken, 8-0 Botkins, what are they really doing? And the Jackson Center team that's 4-0 and filled with athletes that we saw down here at Russia about a week or so ago. What are they going to do? Botkins, as you mentioned last week, holding other teams to about 36 points. Jackson Center scoring about 50 points a game. So athletic, up-paced Jackson Center team against a solid, tall, strong, physical Botkins team. So it's going to be interesting how this one works out. And like I said, it's going to tell everybody who you're gunning for. I'm not giving up on anybody else. Russia 6-1. Laramie, you've got Coach Siegel always working stuff there. Houston's doing all right. But these are probably the 2 elite teams as far as what we've seen so far this year. It's going to be a great game. It's going to be interesting to see who wins this one.
Both those teams very balanced with their scoring, have a lot of good players, don't just depend on one girl duo scoring for them, and that's why I like both those teams.
Absolutely. I think Jackson Center is just going to bring a little more athleticism to the table. They're quick. They've got some tall girls as well. Taking nothing away from Botkins. We'll see what happens, but I think Jackson's going to really look to push the tempo there and use their speed and athleticism to possibly control that game over some of the size that Botkins brings to the court.
When we saw him here at Russia, you could tell Jackson really wasn't quite back into basketball form. Another week or so, I wonder how much good that's done him. Like you said, a little more athleticism. Are they going to push the tempo, full court press or something like that to add to the mix? It'll be interesting.
All right, and we have the same girls matchups as we have boys matchups this weekend. And Ken, we have that House and that Fairlawn game. Fairlawn desperately looking for their first win. Took a real thumping from Laramie last week. Did they get it against Houston?
I don't think so, Craig. I think Houston's one of those teams that they've played a tough schedule early on. They've played a lot of these top teams in the league. I think Houston's looking to stay in the hunt there, if you would, and they're not out of it yet either. They got some good athletes over there as well, so I think Houston will prevail over Fairlawn in that one.
Houston, they got some three-point shooters over there. A couple girls. Rebecca New, 12 three-pointers this year, I believe, or 12 or more at least. And then you got Morgan Ely, I believe it is, and one of the Ely girls, I know because she runs cross-country, but she can shoot the three as well. So they're a team that started out really slow, 0-3, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, and then they won their next 3. But they're a team that I think they get better, like all teams should, but they're going to definitely get better as the season moves on. So I agree with you. I picked the Houston over the Fairlawn in that one, and then Heavy D, back to Russia at Anna this time on the girls' side. Russia's playing really well right now. Anna not so much. Do the Raiders need to be careful with this game?
You're right. Anna's or Russia's coach Timmerman's got the Raiders playing well so far this year. I still like the backcourt strength, the senior strength of Hatcher, Plyman and Heron, and underneath are solid with the Poling and Wilson. So I look for the Raiders to continue to roll and have no problem with Anna.
I don't know. I think this is as they call it in Vegas, a trap game for me. They've got some good athletes over there at Anna, and I expect them to do a little bit better than they've started out the season. So I'm waiting for them to all of a sudden turn it on.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough game too. Again, at Anna, for some reason, I've been around a long time, Craig, and I don't care who you have and who you're playing on Anna. It's always a tough game. And I think Coach Timmerman's going to have his team ready to play. They're going to have to shoot well. I think they're going to have to defend inside. But I agree with Heavy D. I think their backcourt with Hatcher and Heron and Plyman, I think the three of them can control that game. But they got to stick with their game plan there and try to get out of there with a W.
Well, one thing Russia does have on their side is back-to-back wins against the MAC. New Knoxville on the other night, and then Marion Local on Saturday, which has been a long time since Russia's beat Marion Local. And so they're riding that right now and playing really well, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's a great stuff for Coach Timmerman there. He's got his team off to a 6-1 start, and they got to be feeling pretty good about themselves right now.
Yeah, and then one non-league game, which is a good one. Versailles visits Fort Laramie, and got a couple of veteran coaches there, and Jackie Stonebreaker and Carla Siegel. That's always going to be a good one there. Not as we mentioned last week, not your typical Laramie team. At least starting out the season, they're starting to put things together, starting to get some good play out of some of their upperclassmen. Stang and Fry have had some good games here recently, and they've got those young freshmen we talked about in weeks past. Coach Ratterman actually got her. Stonebreaker actually got her. 250th career win last week, I believe, and so she's been around a while, hasn't she?
Yes, she has. Two great coaches there, like you said, with Siegel and Stonebreaker. I look for, Fort Laramie. We've mentioned it before, their girls program. They're young. They're going to continue to get better and better and better as the season goes on. Have not seen Versailles play all year, but I've heard they are just loaded with talent from freshman all the way through senior class, and they've got it going over there in Versailles as well, as Fort Laramie has had for many, many years, and so it should be a good game.
I think Camille Watron over there at Versailles had a big game the other night. Cammie McEldowney, we know she always shows up and plays hard too. So, yeah, I expect that to be a good game on Saturday. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for the first half of our show. We're going to take a short break, but stay right there. When we come back, we're going to talk some GWalk basketball, including that big interview with Andre Gordon.
Stage at the Leaping Van. Music starts at 8 o'clock. You can find us here every Wednesday night. It's usually the same cats every week, but I can't tell you all their names. Teacher, cat, and a junkie, all waiting for time to play. Everybody here's got something that we're trying to leave behind. We're all a little broken, for a place to hide. Get no answers, don't ask any questions. We're all here just looking for a high. And we're all beautifully broken here tonight.
Welcome back to the second half of Fish Report Live. Before the break, we were talking some SCAL boys and girls basketball. And Ken, we've been covering the SCAL pretty heavy this season so far, but we like to spread it around a little bit and talk a little MAC sometimes, some CCC, even some GWalk. So let's take a look at the GWalk North standings right now and see where we're at.
Well, like you said, we do like to cover some GWalk and some great basketball over there. And Sidney Yellow Jackets sitting at 2-0 right now atop the GWalk North standings. Vandalia Butler at 1-0, and Greenville also at 1-0. And Pickwick, Tip, and Troy all looking for their first wins of the year. And Tip City there, Craig, as you see, new to the GWalk North standings there.
Yeah, they looks like they're going to be fitting right in there. Started out a little bit slow, but Tip traditionally has pretty good teams over there, so I expect them to battle with the rest of those teams. 3 big matchups coming up this Friday night. And Ken, Sidney, again, on the top of the GWalk North right now. Got a chance to watch them last night against Troy, as we mentioned at the top of the show. And our next guest, you actually got a chance to watch a couple years ago before he was even in high school, didn't you?
Yes, I was introduced to Mr. Andre Gordon a few years ago during a summer open gym in Russia, and happened to walk into the gym, and I see this about a 5'8" guy in there, and I'm like, asked somebody, I said, who's that guy right there? And they said, he's from Sydney. I said, really, what's his name? I said, Andre Gordon. I said, really, never heard of him. I go, how old is he? They said, 8th grader. I said, really, is he any good? And they said, watch. And they yelled down, they said, Andre. And Andre threw one down, and I said, wow, that's pretty good.
Not too bad out of an 8th grader, huh?
No, it wasn't too bad. And we're happy to have him on our show tonight with us.
Yeah, he's joining us live right now. Andre, welcome to Fish Report Live, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, guys, thank you.
Hey, listen, Ken and I were just talking about how you actually visited Russia a couple years ago as an 8th grader for an open gym, and Ken was impressed. But, last year we were impressed as well. As a freshman, you came in, had very good seasons on the football field and on the basketball court. This sophomore season, though, your football season, I guess, was cut short because of a broken bone in your left hand. So you had to stay on the sidelines, I believe, the whole season. Andre, was there anything positive that came out of not playing this year and standing on the sidelines?
It was kind of a negative that I was missing out on basketball season, but there's also a positive for being able to be mentally prepared for basketball this year and coming out and being able to condition, because it was only my wrist, so I was able to condition and get ready for basketball.
Listen, your basketball season started off well. You're 3-1, as we mentioned, right now, including your big win over Troy on Tuesday. You came into the season, though, Andre, with a different coach. Last year it was Coach Slaughter. This year you got Coach Willoughby, a guy that we know very well. What are the differences in coaches from last year to this year?
I'd say a big difference this year is our defense this year. Coach Willoughby is a great defensive coach. We have a lot of offensive players that can do our offensive thing and be able to push the ball up. I feel like our defense is a big part of our game plan this year and will make us go far in the tournament or just a regular season.
Andre, hi, this is Ken. And Craig just mentioned your new coach this year, but explain to us how your role has changed. Last year you were a freshman, new to the entire high school scene of high school basketball. Tell us how your role has changed under Coach Willoughby and also being a year older as a sophomore.
I'd say being a leader last year, being the starting point guard, I was a leader, but I wasn't as big of a leader I am this year. I'd say being a leader this year, whether it be going and scoring 20 and 25 points or dishing out 11 assists or getting 10 rebounds, I'd say I'm overall just being a big leader and being fundamental with the basketball and showing other players on the floor about basketball if they don't know as much, because I'm higher than most, so I got to do what I got to do to help the team out.
Andre, we had a nice opportunity to watch you play last night. We went over to Troy and watched the Sydney-Troy game, and you guys played very well there. It looked like your team's really starting to gel both on the offensive and the defensive end of the floor. But you got another big game coming up this weekend, and another rival game there with the Pickwick Indians. What's it going to take for the Yellow Jackets to get on a Pickwick with a win?
We're going to have to come out with some energy. It's a rival game. You know how those are always close, but we're going to try to get it out quick, show Pickwick this year what we're made of, and let them know that we're the best rival.
Andre, one of the highlights on your schedule this year is the Fly Into the Hoop tournament held down at Trent Arena in Kettering. Our Russia Raiders actually had the opportunity of playing in that a couple years ago. It's a lot of fun. I'm sure you've been down there to watch it before. But tell us a little bit about, what your feelings are to playing in that prestigious tournament down there, the Fly Into the Hoop contest. And also, are there going to be any particular coaches across the nation that are coming in to particularly watch Andre Gordon play?
Playing in that tournament, it means a big thing ever since probably fifth, sixth, all the I'd go to watch the flying to the hoop, seeing the best players in the nation go. So it's pretty proud to say that I'm going to be able to play and show other schools and coaches that I'm able to play, and I'm from Sidney High School, trying to make a name for myself. And then I haven't heard from many coaches that will be there, but I'm sure there's going to be coaches in the stand, and hopefully they are there to watch my potential and they can see what I'm really capable of doing.
Hey, Andre, one more question and we'll let you go. But speaking of colleges, I know you're just a sophomore here, but I know you had an opportunity to attend a Notre Dame football game as well as the Ohio State-Michigan game here recently to watch those college football games. Can I ask, are you leaning maybe towards playing football or basketball someday in college, or is that anything that's even crossed your mind yet?
It's crossed my mind a couple of times. A lot of people have asked me, but no, I'm not 100% sure on what I'm doing yet or when I'm going to decide that. Maybe my junior, senior year, but not yet. I don't know yet.
Still enjoying high school right now, huh?
Yeah, I'm enjoying high school right now.
Well, we're keeping enjoying it, Andre. You're just a sophomore. You're young yet. Keep having fun out there. It looked like you were having a lot of fun last night, and it was a real joy to watch you and your whole team play. You guys got a nice team there, and we wish you the best of luck the rest of the season.
Yep, thank you guys. Thanks for having me on the show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that was Sidney sophomore Andre Gordon. Ken, you and I both had an opportunity to talk to Andre on a couple of occasions, and I'm sincere when I say this. You can't get a nicer guy.
Nice kid. He carries himself very well for a 16-year-old, and I was really impressed with him the few times I've ran into him, whether I was on a Sidney boys girls game or even at Wendy's one day when I ran into him. So, great guy, and I wish him the best of luck in his future.
All right, good stuff there. And that's about going to wrap it up for us tonight. Have one more thing to get to, and that is tonight's poll question. Let's bring the sound room in here again. And Ken, why don't you read the poll question to our viewers again?
Speaking of the Sidney Yellow Jackets, Craig, and talking some GWAC North basketball, will the Sidney boys win the GWAC North division this year? Simple yes or no answer. And TK, what do the telemetrics have to say back here?
Well, I think a little bit of the cold weather might have slowed people down. We don't have the triple-digit responses that we did the last couple of weeks, but we do have a unanimous yes. 34 of our votes and 0 votes for no. So everybody voting tonight says Sidney's going to win the GWAC. So they might have been watching that game last night or some earlier games, because that is a tough team up there in Sidney right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I actually talked to a Sidney Daily News photographer last night, and he's been paying attention to Sidney basketball since 1961, he said. He tried to tell me about every season to date, but he said that he thought last team was very good, and he thought they were going to miss, you remember Gallimore and Tabor and guys like that. But after last night's game was over, he was convinced that this team might be a little bit better.
Well, Craig, I listened to the starting lineups, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they started 3 sophomores and 2 juniors. Yeah. So you think they're good this year? Wait till next year. But I'm sure they're enjoying this year right now. They're they're young. They do have a couple seniors, really nice players that come off the bench for them, and they're deep. They're fast. They're strong, and they really get after it.
All right. Well, fun talking a little GWAC basketball tonight. Maybe we'll spread it around to some other conferences in the weeks to come. But until then, that's going to do it for us tonight. Do want to say special thanks to our guest, Andre Gordon, for joining us live. For Ken and TK and Heavy D, this is Craig saying, have a great rest of the week, and good night, everyone.
Hanging at the fishing pond, hanging at the fishing pond, hanging at the fishing pond, hanging at the fishing pond. For your latest news and high school sports, tune in to the fishing pond. Don't need no bed, don't need no pole, when you tune in to the fishing pond, hanging at the fishing pond.